Hello, everybody, and welcome to the FarrEnuFF Podcast, where we talk about music and the arts. Maybe some ice skating, Quidditch, and fantasy and sci-fi and shit. Pathology, ice hockey, whatever I feel like talking about. Space. Whatever. There is no limit. But anyway, getting on with things, I'd like to start it off as I usually do with an original song of mine. It's off my EP, Night Sun. The song is called Always Will. And if you like it, check it out on streaming services, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, iTunes, Apple Music, whatever your fancy is, should be there. Song, once again, is called Always Will. Coming up next, Matthew Graham. Stay tuned.
So my love, we find each other here, struggling and at each other's throat. Oh my love, I hold you so dear. I know I can find the perfect note to make us see our love again, to sing out like a violin.
Always Will. I wrote that when I thought that a song could save a relationship. But that's not important. Alright, so it's time to get our next guest on the phone. We're going to get Matthew Graham here. Let's dial him up.
Hello?
Hey, Matt, how are you doing?
All right.
Hey, it's great to have you on the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Awesome.
So, I like to start this off the way I've started my last few guests, because they've all been musicians. So what was the very reason that drew you to the path of music in the first place?
Well, it started for me at the age of 2. I was with my mom and my dad. We were visiting my Aunt Linda and my Uncle Noel down in Connecticut. and my aunt and my mom were going to a Shirelles concert. Ironically, it must have been a musical day for everybody because they went to a Shirelles concert, and my dad and my uncle were trying to keep me entertained while they were at the concert. Keeping an eye on me, they put in my aunt's tape of the Elvis 68 comeback special. And I took right to that, and I was dancing in my crib supposedly, and I guess my mom and my aunt came back from the park, and I didn't want to go to the park. I wanted to keep watching the tape. I ended up getting my own copy of the tape, and from then on, it just spurred. I was a diehard Elvis fan, and then it spurred on to get into his contemporaries, and just went on from there.
I love his contemporary stuff. So that was going to be my next question. For me, it's like, I want to be honest, and it was the same thing when I first heard the Beatles. The first time I heard Elvis, I hated it. I didn't get it, and I thought he sounded weird, and I was like, I don't understand. It's like, whereas some people, the first time they hear him, they're like, this is the next angel sound on earth, you know? Like, so what exactly about Elvis is so makes you gravitate towards him so much?
Well, see, like I said, I saw him at the age of 2, and honestly, the weird thing of it is my dad was an Elvis fan, but he listened to the older, more sadder Elvis, which, honestly, until probably the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, I got into more in the last 10 years or so, but I was always more into the rocker Elvis.
Yeah.
And it was just something about him. It was that sound. 68 comeback special, for those who don't know, is one Elvis incarnation that I think needs to be put out there more, because I think he had that deeper voice, but he had a nice rasp to it, and he started off with a really bluesy number, and it was the voice, all the soulful stuff he did. It was the look. I mean, obviously the hair, and he opened that number playing Viking Hagstrom, which is like a 335 type guitar.
Yeah.
So that attracted it to me, and the look, and just the whole attitude, and just that whole sound. My ears just, it was Elvis, but it also just seemed to perk towards that blues rock kind of sound. Yeah. Early rock and roll sound.
I will say this, nobody had the confidence quite like Elvis did. Like, he owned that whole crowd all the time. Like, there was not a time where he didn't. But it's funny that you mentioned that, like, because when I finally got into Elvis, when I became like a teenager and stuff, like, it was like Burnin' Love and like 70s Fat Elvis, like, that actually got me into him. I was like, this guy's got some really good vocals and stuff. So then I dove back and really dove deep into the catalog and stuff. Like, you're a fool. It's like, like, for not loving this guy. Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, he's got that. People pick on him a lot, It's like, but. People that get picked on a lot, it's usually because they're great. It's like same thing with Michael Jackson and stuff. Oh,
I know that feeling on a personal level, but no, a lot of people put him down as like one specific vocal little thing, and people don't realize how diverse he actually was.
Nah, he was super diverse. And having one of the
he had a lot more diversity than people give him credit for.
Yeah, and his band was just incredible. Like the best way I can compare it, honestly, is like what Paul McCartney's band is now. Like, that type of caliber of musicians. Like, those guys were spot on, and if they weren't, they were fired. Like, like.
Yep.
Absolutely loved the band. So I was listening to a little bit of your original song earlier, and I actually had a question about it. Because
what's that?
You mentioned in the beginning of the video, and we're going to play it a little bit later for you guys here, but it said it was about the forefathers of rock and roll. So out of curiosity, I'm like, what does the internet have to say about the forefathers of rock and roll? And they only narrowed it down to 7. And Carl Perkins isn't on here. And so I'm kind of curious about it. It's like, what were your forefathers of rock and roll when you were writing that song?
Well, see, for me, Carl Perkins would be up there, but for me, a lot of people would agree too. A lot of people would put Carl Perkins as the father of, like, say, even though Elvis was technically like the guy that kind of started the whole thing of that, and he's in the category of forefathers of rock and roll for rockabilly.
Okay.
Which is like the subcategory of early rock and roll. But he would be put more in that more in the subcategory of like rockabilly, as opposed to like the forefathers of rock and roll. Meaning, I think it's more of a crossover thing a little bit. You had like you had guys that like Elvis kind of went towards the R&B side. So you had a lot of like black and forefathers of rock and roll. It depends on how far they went over to get kind of early rock and roll. That's the way
I'm sorry, you just cut out a little bit there. I didn't hear the last couple sentences.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, I think what it is it depends on how well the artist crossed over to both sides of the black and white crowd of rock and roll.
Okay, well,
I think that's part of it.
All right, well, this list here is like the first four they mention are Little Richard, which I agree, Charles Edward Anderson Barry, Buddy Holly, and Ray Charles. But I don't think that's a fair assessment of the four fathers of rock and roll. I mean, each one. Ray
Charles kind of surprises me a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, when you wrote Get the Devil Out of Me, what were the four guys that you had in mind when you wrote it?
Well, the funny thing of it is that recording you got that's just me playing it live. But I do have a recording I recorded years ago, but I'm going to redo eventually, that I put a piano on. That's
cool.
The guys I had in mind is like vocally, it's definitely gonna be. I got the Elvis thing going on, hands down. That was kind of my inspiration there. I thought for piano wise, Little Richard or Jerry Lewis.
Yep, obviously.
And then on the guitar, pretty obvious is Chuck Berry.
Oh, okay.
Those are like the guys I had in mind right off the bat. When I think about the forefathers of rock and roll in terms of building what became rock and roll.
See, yeah. Like, because when I think
such a gray area.
When I think of the forefathers of rock and roll, my immediate reaction thinks of the $1 Million Quartet. Like where it's
see.
It's just like, well, Johnny Cash ain't rock and roll. It's like, but he could be. Like when he's combined with Perkins, Lewis, and Elvis. Like, how could you not be? Like.
And that's the weird thing about the early rock and roll is all this gray area. Because if you look at there's those guys, and then you had all the black artists from Chess. You had Chuck Berry obviously, and then Little Richard was on Chess, but you had him. You had Fats Domino, and you had Boothe Diddley, and a lot of the early, a lot of the electric blues artists that influenced rock and roll as well. So it's very hard to tell. You have the rockabilly guys. You have a lot of early R&B, what became rock and roll guys. There's all this gray area. It's very hard to tell.
I agree. It's kind of like what it is now. They didn't have subgenres back then, so it's...
No, and it crossed over a lot. And I grew up with all of it, so I really never really too much of like, this guy versus that guy versus this guy versus that guy. Like, I grew up listening to all of that. I soaked it all in.
I got lucky because it was the same deal. Like, I was very much into Robert Johnson. And so it's like, I have to hear Robert Johnson's, like, and then you just find out, like, it just keeps trickling down and down, like who he inspired, like, and the whole creation of rock and roll is like, and you can't go from Robert Johnson to where I began, which was Rush, without going through, Carl Perkins and Elvis and Buddy Holly and T-Bone Walker. I mean, that's a little bit earlier, but same deal,
Yeah, same, yeah.
And it's one of the things I enormously respect about you, and you remind me a lot of myself, even though I'm younger. It's like we stick to our guns, like we play the music that we love and don't care if people listen to it or not, because it feels good to play it.
Well, the funny part of it is, especially with Flashback there, the funny part of it is, and I'm experiencing this more and more, and it's just so weird for me, is that a lot of people say, oh, he does 50s rock and roll, or wow, you do the 50s stuff, wow, you do. I'm like, to me, I'm just doing rock and roll.
Yeah. Billy Joel said it best. It's all rock and roll.
It's not about, to me, it's like the equivalent of doing like an AC/DC. To me, I don't hear much. In my own head, I'm not hearing too much difference, other than maybe how you sing it and the guitars and louder.
It isn't
I'm just
different.
hearing as blues-based music turned up to 11.
I mean, honestly, like, if you really listen to the tracks, like, the difference majorly is the technology that was used to record the songs. It's like, because when you bring it down to the basics, it's a heavy kick drum, it's like a fat bass low end, it's like, and a distorted guitar with screaming vocals. Like, the only difference is back then there was a lot better backup singers, because they loved doing, you know, the you know, like, but shit, it's like, it was just so good, like, it, especially back then, like, you wouldn't have had the Beatles, like, without that stuff, like, nothing even close to it. Imagine if that rock and roll period just did not exist, like, we would be all jazz enthusiasts right now. Like,
probably, or it'd just be divided into different genres. You'd have even more. You have your blues guys, you have your jazz guys, you have your country guys.
Yep.
Maybe your folk guys, and you know, if none of that cross-pollinated, it would just stay separate.
I completely agree. And I want to put this on the record because I haven't gotten the chance. I mean, I may have told you already, but when Little Richard died, it's like, and I couldn't remember if you did Tutti Frutti or Long Tail Sally, but whichever one you did, you crushed it.
Thank you.
Like, you really did, like, because I never really heard you sing high like that before. It's like, and when you did, it was like, holy shit! It's like,
I know, it took me by surprise too, because I worked with Mikey and stuff, and even my uncle couldn't get over it. It's one of those things. It's one of those weird anomalies.
I've had a couple moments like that, like where you have like a blotch of mucus in your throat or something like that. Like, I remember singing a high note and I got like a big mucus patch in my throat, and it went like 4 octaves higher than I could ever hit, and could never ever hit again since. It's like, but I got it on recording, and I could like see Mikey because I was playing with him, and he turns around, he's like, "What the fuck?" And I'm looking at him the same way, like, "This is a freak accident," like, you know. But no, like with you singing that one, that was not a freak accident. That's something very much in your range, and I was.
Oh yeah, it's just knowing what's what, you know, and working different parts, and knowing, you know, learning about yourself and how far you can push it. And
yeah, I mean, that's a hard thing in itself, like finding that solitude to be able to work your voice. Because, you know, like even for me, like there was a very large chunk of time where I sucked, like, and where like I went to go. Continue.
I haven't really heard that, so.
I don't think you suck, man. I don't think you suck at all. Like,
Thank you, sir.
I mean, for one, your guitar playing is incredible. So you can play me out of the water like, any day of the week on guitar. Like, you just can.
I don't know. You got some cool stuff. You doing some of the cool tapping stuff.
I know some tricks. It's like, but you know the work. You know, it's like I can pretend I know a scale. Like if I wanted to, but you know what I'm saying. Like, I'm amazingly impressed by that, and I respect the hell out of you. Just the fact that you stick true to yourself. You know, a lot of people don't do that. They want, you know, I fell into that trap. It's like, well, maybe I should play some grunge music for a while. It's like people like that, you know. But,
well, I mean, I'm trying to go through right now. I'm kind of going. It's a kind of a weird period. It's like. People are catching up of how good I could do the stuff that I'm associated with right off the bat, and people are catching up to that now. For myself, I'm trying to like expand beyond that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's the weird part where I'm at right now, because there's a lot of stuff that I know I can do that people are probably shocked, or things I'm into music-wise that people are probably like, "You're into that?" Like one example, one of my favorite singers. Might surprise people. One of my favorite, like, right up there with Elvis, is Chris Cornell.
Yeah, absolutely. He's phenomenal. And I didn't enjoy his stuff at first.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites, and I'm just, you know, I'm just trying to expand beyond just what people think I'm, you know, because I don't mind being associated with the oldies and the 50s and all that, but like I said, I don't want people thinking that it's just because I'm into that stuff, that's all I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I got my hair and everything, so I'm not going to whine and be complaining about that, but, you know, just trying to expand things beyond that.
No, that's a good thing, too, and I'm trying to do the same. Like, Because if it was up to me, it'd just be Beatles all the time. Like, you know, like Beatles and metal,
Oh, yeah.
and there's no middle ground for that. Nobody wants to see a metal Beatle group. Or maybe they do. Like, I don't know.
It's a balance.
It's like, and that's, I think that's the fun part is finding like songs that you wouldn't think would work. Like with me and the Bee Gees thing, like everybody I talk to is like that's like something that shouldn't work. You know, like, a metal version of Staying Alive. You know, it's like that should not work.
I love that.
It's like, but it does. You know, and I know like what makes me think about you branching out and stuff. Zach Brown. It's like every concert I've ever heard, he plays one song at the end that you're not expecting it. It's everywhere from like just a Jimmy Buffett tune to like Killing in the Name by Rage Against the Machine, you know? Something like that. Like, really?
Oh, yeah.
It's like he's doing that? It's like, and it's awesome. It's like, because it's put together in a different package, you know? Like,
See, I think for me right now, I'm trying to get like narrow down my identity or try to find, because it's very, I feel, contrary to popular belief, I know I stand out doing the 50s, 60s stuff, but but as far as the way I see myself kind of in the crosshairs of that, classic rock stuff, blues, like I kind of see myself somewhere in that mix.
you're a musician. You know, and I think that's a crucial point. Like, at least with myself, 'cause every musician hits that stage with like, what can I do to enhance my craft? You know?
Exactly.
And it's like, all right. So for a while, I listened to nothing but like pop music and like industrial stuff, like stuff that didn't even involve the guitar. Kind of like a Todd Rundgren approach almost, you know? Like, let's see how far from my norm I can get. It's like, and then at a point, like, all right, this is complete shit. It's like, you need to dial it back, you know? It's like, all right, let's go in a different direction, you know? I was like, because primarily for me, like, I was very strong into, like, progressive rock and blues. Like, those were my big comfort zones. It's like, and acoustic music, believe it or not. Like, I've said this for years, like, I'm an acoustic guitarist that just happens to play an electric, which is why I enjoy rhythm so much. I mean, people underestimate rhythm guitar. Like, it's awesome.
Oh, definitely.
It's probably, for me, it's more fun. Like, I love doing like the as opposed to doing like a killer lead. Like, I'd rather hear somebody who's better at lead doing like it on top.
Well, that's where I've been. It's been a learning curve for me with working with the band, because, you know, I never realized how much I sped up and tend to rush things. I just have a tendency. I told Garry, after a while, I went and I listened to some of the stuff I played a while ago before I got going to the band. I told him, I said, I don't think I speed up, Garry. I just hear things going a couple dB faster than it should be.
That's definitely like a live, like, the more shows you play, the better you get at that. It's like, I'll never forget my first live gig. Like, every song, I didn't even do drugs then. Like, I don't now. It's like, but you know, that little in between or period in between, it's like, it felt like I was like railing lines of coke, because it was like everything was like super fast, like all the time.
Yeah, for me, it's like the adrenaline gets going, and, you know, and then I tend to play things. I remember I was playing Pride and Joy once at open mic, and the drummer's like, "That's the fastest I ever played that song."
It's like, let's do this shit, let's go.
And the guy was like, another guy that was jamming with me said, "Well, that's probably because he's a rockabilly dude." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, we'll use that excuse."
Yep, fuck it. It's like, what, you can't keep up? You know?
Exactly.
Oh, shit. Well, I'm going to put it on the record here. I'm talking to the camera now, just so you know. Me and Matthew, we share the same rhythm section. Garry Boothe on drums and Mike Labelle on bass, which is also Matthew's cousin. Also one of the cool facts between the two of us. I promoted Flashback last time I talked to Garry. It's like, as it should be promoted. It's like, because you guys are tight. You're tighter than, you know, Swamp Frog right now. You know?
Oh, we've been working our butts off, and
I know, and it shows. Like, when you guys can get together as often as you do.
And I gotta say, you and I are definitely lucky having Garry and Mikey because they are one hell of a rhythm section.
Oh, I love having the two. Like, for one's like Gary's dedication, like that guy just wants to do the best job that he can, and I love the man for it. And Mikey, like if he does it wrong, he hates himself for it. You know, like,
he's very. I mean, the two of them, but I love watching where I'll be playing. And they'll do, like the other night, I noticed that sometimes I don't catch it because I'm just focused on what I'm doing. But we'll be playing, and they'll do a little something on the drums, and Mikey will do a little something kind of back at him, kind of as an inside joke. But it's all musical, and they have these little tricks of these little things, and sometimes playing it, sometimes not, where Garry will do a fill, Mikey will do a roll at the same time. It'll sync right up the perfect thing.
Oh, yeah, I love that shit. Because he'll wait for it. It's like, because Garry will do a little fill the first time, and he'll, like, look at Mikey, and Mikey will, like, nod, like, okay, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, and the next time, it's like, and the whole low end is just completely filled. Like, you don't even need a string section or horns, like, with those two. Like,
well, that's the thing, and that's where I think us being a three-piece, I'm lucky to have those guys, because it's a lot. It's a lot on all three of us. It's like having a table with 3 legs.
Oh, you have to. With a three-piece, your rhythm section has to be your three-piece has to be a rock. And I've been in so many three-pieces where that's not the case. I mean, majority of them have been all right. It's like, but sometimes the drummer can't keep time, or the bass player can't keep time. One of them can't keep time. That's usually the issue.
Well, the thing of it is with Mikey is I've always told Mikey, I said, you're a bass player's bass player. No matter whatever you're playing, and you're a bass player that needs to be kind of featured a little bit.
Yes, he does.
Because he's a bass player's bass player, and with this band, it's great because he can really, really stand out because he needs to fill in that gap. He needs to fill out as a three-piece. I need that gap.
Well, you think about like.
So I told him.
Oh, continue.
I just tell him, I tell him all the time, like, don't be afraid to fill in the gap. I mean, I want to stick to the originals, but you can add a little bit more in because we need that space, and it helps me out tremendously.
Yeah, because you think about like a lot of those old recordings with those guys with the big, the upright basses, like that's what they were doing. It's like you just couldn't.
Yep.
They didn't have the technology to record it all, but that's what they were doing. It's like those guys were beasts, to be able to go like and actually pluck them all. It's like, but that's what was happening. It's like it was one of the things. Like I didn't know if you knew this. The Bare Naked Ladies, like their first 3 albums was all done with an upright bass.
Jesus.
It's like, and that's probably why I love them so much. Like I like at least those first few ones where they were like really, really powerful. Like before, like it's been 1 week, like. And I like that stuff too. It's like, but it just wasn't the same like after the first couple. Yeah. So I did have another question for you. So, I'm sure the folks out here watching this don't know. It's like, but you do. So you lived in New York City for a little while. So I wanted to ask, what's the biggest difference in the music scene, like playing in New York City, as opposed to playing out in obscure bars here in Vermont?
9 day. Well, the difference is down there. There's just a lot more musicians and people to meet, and I think around here. I mean, I'm not trying to put down my statement around here. If you say I want to do A, B, and C and do something huge, you get looked at like you have 2 heads. Or good luck. We're down there. You can talk like that and have that aspiration, and you're not looked at like crazy.
All right, so I guess a better way. My apologies, folks, for the smoke alarm. I didn't count on that. So describe to me like a typical night where you would play down in New York. Like, how would that go?
Oh, geez, there was different nights. Well, I did some blues jams down there. And there was one I'd like to go to. There's two I'd like to go to. There's one called White Trash, which is like more of a blue collar bar. And you go, and there was these musicians that would play, and even just watching was just amazing. It's older musicians, And as I consider myself a rock and roll guitarist. A lot of people think I just, in terms of what I feel like I feel like I'm too energetic to be considered like a blues guitarist.
I would categorize you as a rocker. I would categorize you as a rock guitarist.
But so I would watch these guitarists just to see like how to take and see what I know how to play, but how to do it in a context in a more subtle way. And these guys have just blown me away. But you go up there and you jam with them, and you might jam and just play some blues tunes and just watch. I just go and basically play and watch a lot what these guys are doing.
So it's more like a learning experience, like type of deal.
It was a lot of them.
Yeah.
And then there was another jam I did at this place called Cassidy's, which I did. It wasn't officially blues jam, but they did a lot of blues and early rock and roll. I fit in like a glove, and that was a lot of fun. And it was good. It was good just to get up there with some more experienced musicians.
Yeah, absolutely.
And get out and play, and that's as far as those go.
Yeah,
I did the songwriters open mic at a place called what was it called now? I'm drawing a blank. But this place in Bar 9.
Okay.
Hosted by my friend Cece, and it was a songwriters. We looked at songwriters on open mic, and that's the video that I have my song on from.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I used to go to that one, and same kind of deal. You see a lot of experienced songwriters and even younger people that are out there doing the music. Just a lot of diverse people.
Nice. Well, with that in regards, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to play Matthew Graham's original song here, Get the Devil Out of Me. Link is going to be below in the description for the original video. But yeah, here it is. All right.
The name of the song is Get the Devil Out of Me. This is dedicated to the forefathers of rock and roll, so I hope you enjoy. Got an empty heart, gotta feel the whole. I gotta scream, I gotta shout, gotta let you know what I'm talking about. Will the rebel come out the eyes don't see? I get the devil out of me. People say rock and roll's the devil's music. They can go crazy if they ever lose it. Rock and roll, save the human race from the night. That we face, I'm not the devil as you can see. I am the devil out of me. Well, I don't wanna hurt anyone. I just wanna have some fun. But I like to play my guitar real loud. Hear the sound of the crowd. Yeah. Talking about when the rebel come out, the eyes don't see. Get the devil out of me.
So that was Get the Devil Out of Me by Matthew Graham, and shit, dude, like, I told you earlier when we were talking on the phone, I've been having it on repeat for an hour. It's good. Like, I really enjoy that. And when you posted originally, like, I listened to it a lot. Like, you completely captured, like, the vibe of that era perfectly, I thought. And you sang it wonderfully, and the lyrics were perfect. At least the way I think that they should be, you know? So, just absolute kudos to you. I mean, what was your, other than the four Fathers of Rock and Roll, but, like, what, can you tell me what you were kind of thinking about when you wrote the songs?
Well, rhythm-wise, in my head, with the way I sang it, honestly, I kind of heard a Ramones kind of feel.
Yeah, I kind of picked up on that a little bit, too. A little bit.
Like rock and roll high school.
Yeah.
You know, oh yeah, that kind of thing.
No, I really enjoyed it. And what I thought was kind of cool was, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but at the end when you just break into the leads, fucking bold move, my good sir. Like, I've been wanting to try that for years, and I just don't have the confidence, because as soon as that low end goes, I just panic. I'm like, no, the low end's more important than the lead. You know, and you just pulled right through it, and then, like, when it was supposed to go back into the turnaround, it just was there. You know, and you didn't lose your spot.
Guitar-wise, like I said, Chuck Berry, but also probably a lot of people would guess, and it is true, one of my inspirations is Brian Setzer. And that was a lot of his kind of portal things and little licks and stuff. I got a lot of from him, too.
Have you listened to his newest album yet?
I have. Awesome stuff.
I listened to it about, it was last Thursday. And wow, it was a little bit shorter than I wanted. Because I thought Rockabilly Riot, it was a little bit longer. Yep. And I love that album, too. Like, Shoulda Got a V8, Shoulda Got a V8. Like, that was a great album. Like, and I thought this one was as good, just not as long. That's all.
Yep.
Like, but shit, like, I thought it was better than when he got back together with the Stray Cats.
Yep.
Like, because that was all right. It's like, I was like, yeah. It's like, but this is pretty much Brian again.
Oh yeah.
I mean, no disrespect to the other members of the band, but at that point, like, what have they done? Like,
it's Brian Setzer. He certainly put himself out there a lot.
You know, like, Brian Setzer brought back rockabilly and swing, like, both in his lifetime. Like, kudos to the man. Like,
yeah, he's definitely, like, that's been my, like, to me, if you have two guys hanging over me that are my two guitar heroes I look to a lot, it's like him and Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Stevie's, I look at him like, I'll never be as good, no matter how much I try.
Those are the two that I'm like, I really, like, look to a lot.
And I didn't even think Stevie was that good. Like, when I was growing up, it's like, yeah, I love Stevie. And it's like, but he's not that good, you know? And then I saw one live performance of his. I don't even remember what the song was. But his fingers moving so fast. It's like, and the way that I register music is all by ear. And I'm listening to it, and I was like, I can't pick up what the fuck he's playing. It's like, and I'm watching his fingers, and I'm seeing what he's playing. It's like, and Jimmy, too. Like, I think Jimmy Vaughan gets really underrated a lot of the time just because of the Fabulous Thunderbirds, you know, and Tough Enough. It's like, which I don't think is a bad song. It's like, but I agree. Like, when you go to a Jimmy Ray Vaughan concert, and he's like, if you're here to see Tough Enough, go home.
Yeah, because that's Fabulous Thunderbirds. He's doing his own thing.
It's like, I particularly love the album that him and Stevie did together. Like, I think it was called Brothers. Yeah. Oh, it's like, and you could tell, like, each brother, like, they sound so similar, but so different. Even though they're both playing the same, like, Koa Strats. Like,
yep.
It's like, how is this possible? It's like, oh, fingers. You know?
Well, that's just it. I used to watch the video. I forget what it's called. It's like, I can't remember the name of the group, but the name of the place or whatever, but it starts with them. But I used to watch this VHS tape I got in the yard sale of him and Double Trouble back in the day. This is like when they were kind of up and coming.
Yeah.
People knew who they were. but not quite as like big as they were in the late 80s. But I watched it, him and the band play, and I used to go and pause the video and rewind it and try to slow it down to watch how his fingers were moving to figure out what the hell he was doing.
You watch it on
I'm still
slow-mo?
there.
Like,
I'm just about there now. But it's still tough.
Oh, it's a tough feat. You know, like I remember, it's like when I was first learning guitar, it's like, because for me, like my inspiration, like it was weird. Like I loved music all my life. It's like, and I actually started on piano when I was like 6, like trying to learn like California, Here I Come, and like all these like church hymn things, you know. And then I kind of got like disinterested in it and moved on to different things. And then I'll never forget it. It was Ben Hahn's birthday party when I was in 6th grade, and I sang "Hey Now It's an All-Star" in karaoke terribly. Like I was like, "Hey, ah!" Like I was just screaming my lungs out. And my father picked me up from that birthday party, and he puts on Rush's 2112. He's like, "You need to listen to this." It's like they all have master's degree in music. I was like, okay. It's like, I'll give it a chance, you know? And I listened to it, and I just fell in love with the whole fucking thing. It was like, I want to do that. It's like, I want to make those sounds happen. So it's like the first song I learned was like a Rocky Horror Picture Show song, you know, something simple. But the second song I tried to learn was that song. And my dad was like, "You're going to drive yourself insane. Like, you can't learn this. Like, you can't learn this song, like, right now." I was like, "Why not?" It's like, if I only try this song until I get it, I'll eventually learn it. You know? And that's what happened. You know? And so that's why I had that way with listening and hearing it the way that I do. But if you ask me to read music, I'm like, what?
I mean, hell, even I've been reading music, and I honestly, compared to some music majors and people have degrees in it, I'm not the best music reader. Because I struggle reading the rhythms.
I can't read any music to save my life. Can't read a note of it. I wish I could. My music teacher used to break my balls every day. Kudos, Mr. Lennox. You were on the right path. He's like, "Do you understand? It's like, if you could read it with the ear that you have, you'd be unstoppable." You know, and
now,
I was...
for me, personally, I feel like, in terms of that, I feel like the thing they need to emphasize more, other than reading music, is music theory and how to hear it as related to music theory.
Yes.
That, I think, is more important.
Because of the way that I was, like, I thought music theory was just another, you know, textbook thing. Like, it was like, why do I need to hear an opinion? It's like, music sounds good to me, this is the way it's going to be. You know, it's like, and I completely discredited all music theory. And I remember Vincent Fitzgerald used to give me shit all the time about it. He'd be like, "Dude," it's like, "just read a book. It's like, just read one book. It's like, and it'll completely change your life." And I finally did, you know, about 8 or so years ago. And it's like, he was right.
Yeah, it's the grammar of music.
Yeah. It's like,
pretty much. And all it does really is it just gives you terms on how to describe what you hear. It's shortcutting it.
I
so
agree.
You can say to another person, "This is this, and this, and this."
I agree.
You know, it goes to one of the 5 chord. There's a leading tone here. And poor Garry, Mikey and I go back and forth talking about that, figuring parts out. And I'm like, "You got that, Garry?" You know, and he's like, "Yep, I guess so."
So the funny thing, what got me to accept music theory finally was I had read a book, like when my ex was going to college, and I recommend this book to anyone who hasn't read it. It was The Path of Zen Guitar.
Yep.
And it applied Zen principles to like guitar music and stuff. And I didn't realize how much of an asshole I've been all my life. Like, you have to read that. It's like, there is no such thing as a bad artist or a bad song. It's like, when someone says, "Oh, they suck," it's like, they're really naive. It's like, you should feel bad for that person. You know? So it's like, I was very guilty of that. It's like, very guilty. So like, after I read the book, it's like, the first thing I did was I went to Vince. It's like, "Give me your music theory books." Like, you know? It's like, and read it with an open mind finally. And yeah, it changed my life. Like, for one, it just made me more accepting. It's like, but two, it also. Sorry, it like opened my grasp
I
for
was just
music.
saying, I hated music theory in college. Like I knew I needed to learn about it, but I hated it.
Everybody does. Everyone does, though. So I love when Todd Rundgren got accepted for Berkeley. Like, he never graduated college at all. It's like, and he got like did like Berkeley's 50th anniversary acceptance speech or something like that. Don't quote me on it, but it's like, oh, look at all the students that came to attend my theory class. You know? And they're all like, no! And they started leaving. It's like, I'm joking. You know? But, you know,
it's tough.
I find it funny he's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, even though he hates the whole principle of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, for years, he's like, if inducted into the Hall of Fame, I won't accept. If I'm elected, I will not serve. And look at him now. It's like, well, I'm sorry. For Bat Out of Hell by itself, he should be in there.
That's what I was just going to say. For that album alone, he should be in there.
I mean, I didn't even know this for the longest time that he did the at the end of the song, he did the motorbike sound. Like, in one take.
Into the solo.
One take. He did the... Because he's like, we need to get a motorcycle. And Todd Rundgren's like, we don't need no fucking motorcycle. And he just drops it down, just... does the whole lead. Like, what you hear on the record was the one take.
Yep.
It's like... And for one, it's like... He's the only producer that wanted to pay for the album.
Yeah.
Like, because
that was taking a chance too.
You know, Gin Steinman and Meatloaf didn't have a demo. Like, they went in with a piano and Meatloaf. Like, here's our album. La 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 la. Did show tune style, you know?
Well, that's what that kind of relates back to what I was saying. Like, when I grew up listening to people paying me just the rockabilly 50s guy, which I can see. I'm not complaining too much, but like I grew up listening to the 50s, 60s, that stuff. Then I listened to Meatloaf growing up. Definitely one of my favorite albums of all time, Bat Out of Hell.
Yeah.
I listened to that stuff. I got into the classic rock as I go older, Southern rock, blues like that. Listen to Boothe, Motown, soul, all that stuff.
Yeah, dude. The Commodores and the Miracles and shit. Like,
yep.
I am all about that.
So that's a lot of my sound too, but people just haven't heard a lot of that, yet.
Well, that's what I'm looking forward, like, with the flashback stuff, like, because that's kind of where I was getting at when I was bringing up the Little Richard thing. It's like, when you went high and you did that scream and stuff, it's like, holy shit. It's like, you got a hell of a voice on you, dude. Like, you really do.
Thank you.
It's like, I just don't think you've honed it quite to where you need it to yet. It's like, but when that happens, it's going to be devastating. Like, to people that are listening to it, like, it's going to fucking rock some heads. Because it's there.
I'm working on it.
And you know what? I'm the same way. Like, I remember playing at Pub 42, like, one of the bartenders, like, I don't like that scream. I don't like that scream that he does. Like, it sounds like shit. Like, and she was right. Like, at the time, that was, like, my move. It's like, oh, I can't hit the note. Ah! You know, like, try to just overemphasize it. It's like, but yeah, I did it a lot. And I paid the price for it. Like, I hurt my voice. It's like, and now I'm smarter about it. It's like, but...
Well, I've been watching it, and I think I recommend it to you. Just, it's always good to keep an eye on. But I've been watching, one of the guys I like to watch on YouTube for that kind of stuff is Ken Pamplin.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. It does such a good job at, like, trying to, like, how to reach the higher notes and how to do it safely and how to sing different styles. And
Yup. The only thing that I thought was kind of bullshit, I mean, that's my own opinion, but was, it was a religious belief of his when he did The Last in Line.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah.
I was like, really? He's like, you can't say we are, it's like, you have to say they are. It's like, I get it.
Yeah.
It's like, but you're right, though. Like, his, he did the comparison of Tim the Ripper Owens compared to Rob Halford on Painkiller.
Yep.
And I thought it was a perfect analysis of it, because people, I mean, I'm not sure how familiar with Tim the Ripper you are, it's like, but people shit on him all the time. It's like, for being that replacement vocalist in Judas Priest. It's like, but when you think about it, that dude was an amazing vocalist and still is. Like,
yeah.
Like, that dude can do things that I wish I could do if I, like, lost half of my testicles. You know? Like,
Yeah.
it's like
Yep.
he can just go, goes, "Wah!" He's like, he's 56 years old. It's like, and people still crap on him. It's like, well, it's like, do you really understand what happened? Like, with the stories? Like, why do you hate this man so much? It's like, because he's not Rob. You know, it's like, which is usually the case. It's like, people are like, no,
It's a tough one.
huh?
Replacing a singer in a band, especially say somebody that's, synonymous with the band. That's a tough one.
Yeah. Like you said, Brian, like, I prefer Bon Scott over Brian Johnson any day of the week. It's like, but that's my own personal opinion.
I love Brian Johnson dearly, and like I love a lot of I'm like AC/DC. That's another thing. They're one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
But I will say, I some stuff with Brian Johnson is like, I'm like, oh my god, dude.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah.
See, I didn't really get into Brian, like, because I was always a Bon Scott guy growing up. I was like, and I didn't even know there was a different singer until I was about, like, 13. My buddy's like, dude, it's like, he's been dead since the 80s. It's like, what? You know? It's like, so then I listened to the other stuff. It's like, but I listened to Brian's band before AC/DC. I can't remember what they were called. It's like, but holy fuck.
Oh, yeah.
He sounded exactly like Bon Scott. It's like, but better. Like, he was a better Bon Scott. It's like, so I became more open to him, and I'm sorry, like, you're a fool to think that if this last album that AC/DC put out was bad, like, you're a fool. Because it was brilliant.
Oh, I got the album.
I did the day it came out. Like, it was amazing. Like, and Brian sang in ways I have never even heard him sing since previous bands, like going low, like getting more of a bluesy rasp because of his conditions and stuff. Like, it was a perfect album. It was way better than Rock or Bust, like way better.
No, it was great. I mean, it was like, to me, it was almost like Back in Black 2.
Yeah, it pretty much was. I thought it was way better than, For Those About to Rock or like Razor's Edge, like, which are like the 3 highlight albums, like Back in Black, For Those About to Rock, Razor's Edge. Like, those are the big 3 Bryans.
Yep.
It's like Back in Black and all, like, I can't really name anything because that whole album was perfect.
Yeah. No, that's among my top 10 favorite albums.
That's my number 2 AC/DC album. Like, I should say 3. It was Highway to Hell for me, because I just love that album. But Powerage has to be my favorite AC/DC album for, like, Gone Shooting and stuff like that. Like, it's just the most well put together album, I thought. But Back in Black is just perfect. Front to cover, like, not a bad song, like Appetite for Destruction or Led Zeppelin 4 or any of those albums. Like,
yep.
Just a well-mixed masterpiece.
It is, definitely.
So, back on your guitar style playing, so what, like, motivated you to play, like, in that style? Like, I know, like, your musical influences were early and stuff, but what's your musical drive, I guess?
It's hard to say. Like, well, my main drive, I gotta say, the person that kept me going that most people might or might not know is my mother.
Yeah.
That was the person that motivated me on a personal level. I think being the fact that I was like I said, on a musical level, the early rock and roll, Elvis and all that, my drive in general, being an outsider, growing up, being the guy that people still kind of discredit from time to time, on a personal level, that's a lot of my drive right now. But on a musical level, a lot of that early rock and roll, blues has definitely grabbed a hold of me.
Yeah.
Through the last. Through the last 20 years or so. Like I said, at guitarist level, Brian Setzer definitely, he influenced me to actually educate myself beyond just being like a blues rock player.
Yeah.
Some of his jazz stuff, and he's the one that kind of made me want to learn to, like, really learn the guitar.
Well, that's honestly, like, when I hear you're playing, that's who you remind me of the most. Like, which is why I say you destroy me on guitars, like, because you can hit, like, you can sound like Brian when you want. Like, when you focus on it and you want to hear those parts, like, you sound almost identical to Brian.
Thank you.
And shit, dude, that's impressive. It's like, because you know what? I mean, you know this. A clean guitar is way less forgiving than a distorted one.
Oh, and I think I drive Mikey nuts with that a little bit because, and I'm working on it, but when I was younger, you know, as you first start out, you're more of a gearhead in terms of, I want to have this pedal, that pedal, this thing, this effect, that effect. And the older I get, the more I kind of like, for a while, I've kind of turned away from a lot of doing too much about that because I've been like, about my playing. Now I'm just trying to flip back and trying to like, now that I've got my playing down more, trying to work on getting more effects back and tweaking that, and, you know. But I try to play. Compared to some people, I think I play a little on the cleaner side for the rock stuff, just a little.
Do you have a wah pedal?
But I try to. What's that?
Do you have a wah pedal?
I do. I have yet to have a chance to really use it much because we haven't started doing it within the band. But Julian got me one last Christmas.
I'm sorry. That was self promotion there. Inside story. I thought I lost my gear bag, which had all my like pedals and cables in it and stuff. And so I thought it was out like $800. So I've been slowly replacing it. So like I bought a new wah pedal, I bought like new patch cables and yada yada. And it's like, and I found it today. After I've bought everything. You know? It's like, so I got an extra wah pedal and like tons and tons of cables. Like, good. I have spares. Like,
I know. I was cleaning yesterday. I found a bunch of cables. Mikey and Garry are probably happy. I found like 4 different microphones. So forever short on microphones. There we go.
Well, I know the band will be happy. Like I said, I found like $800 worth of cables.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm happy for that. So it's like, but I thought they were gone. In my mind, they were already gone. So like, oh shit, this is a gold mine. It's like, and 2 keyboard sustain pedals.
I've been trying to like, that's where I drive Mikey because he's a little more of a gearhead than I am, but he's right on stuff with that, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I'm trying to slowly get my sound down and, you know, get an identity more of my sound and slowly build up more towards working with gear. Like I told Mikey, I don't want to be tap dancing too much, you know. I'm gonna keep it simple but effective.
Right.
That's kind of my goal.
Oh, me and him, like, I don't think that I officially butt heads with him, but he's like, your amp's too loud. It's like, so I'm turning it down. He's like, yeah, it's still too loud. It's like, so I turn it down, and this was cut off in the band practice footage, but I obviously was pissed. Because I'm like, why do I got to turn down this much? It's like, the only reason you want me to turn down this much is because my amp is pointing right at you. It's like, so he's like, no, turn it down. It's like, so I turn it down. I'm all grumpy and shit. It's like, and then I listened to the band practice later. I'm like, he was right. Like, completely right.
See how the opposite gets to tell me to turn up.
Oh, I was like, because usually I'm the quiet one. It's like, I don't want to.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
But yeah, it was funny because he's looking at me like, dude, it's like, why were you fighting me? It's like, because you told me to turn down. You know?
Well, that's
like,
but
I always
the videos, you know what's what.
It's like, I always apologize to him. He's like, yeah, you were right. And he was.
Yeah, it's tough to level, you know, trying to make sure everything's leveled out.
Well, I think that's my one guitar. It's my one vice. Like, I do have that guitar player mood. It's like, no, don't turn me down. I don't have lead singer mood, thankfully. You know, that could be way worse.
Yeah, it's tough. Gotta just getting the right level and, you know, being able to hear each other and stuff, and, you know, then when you go out to play, making sure those levels are right.
Exactly. It's a never-ending struggle, you know.
Like one thing that Mikey did give me. He's like, you gotta get this. He told me, and then I was like, I don't know. But I checked the prices for it. It was my dream amp anyways. I got my Vox AC30.
Oh yeah,
and it's some of the best money I spent.
Absolutely, I heard that.
It's like half the price for it, and
that
I'm just so glad I got that amp.
That amp sounds like a wet dream, dude.
Oh, it is. I mean, I would have got it if it wasn't such a good price. But Mikey's like, dude, you have to go for this.
Yeah.
It's too much of a good price to turn down, and you want this amp. And I looked on, like, I check out, Vox products in general. So I looked up just to make sure. I'm like, that is a good deal, right? And I looked it up, and it's like double the price, new. And even after I got the amp, Jillian and I, because it was up in Burlington, I got it just outside of Burlington. And then on the way back, we stopped at Guitar Center, and then I think there was like an AC15 for like $600, and I paid it $500 something for the AC30.
Right.
So.
Oh,
yeah, it was one of the best things I ever spent.
That was one of those deals. Like, if you couldn't have had the money, I would have given you the money to get it. Like.
Oh, well.
That's an amp that you need to own.
Well, the funny thing happened. I thought Jillian wanted to kill me, but she has the patience of a second sometimes. But on the way there, I didn't take out enough money the day before to get it in cash. So on the way there, I'm like, I'll just stop at this grocery store and take out the money. Well, they only let you take out so much a day at the ATM. So she had to take out money for me and basically give me half the money. I said, I'll pay you back tomorrow when I can take out more money. So we go buy the amp, and then we went to Burlington, just hung out on Church Street. She found this cooking store. She wanted to check out the stuff there for cooking. And she found like a pot, this huge pot or pan that was the exact amount I owed her for the amp. So I was able to find out for her to replace the money that she owed me.
That's awesome. That is awesome,
so,
dude.
Yeah.
Dude, you got yourself a good one there. Like, seriously.
Oh, yeah.
And those are hard to come. I hate to refer them. They are hard to come by.
Yeah. Yeah, you're careful on that one.
Yeah, I gotta be in the woke world, But no, I'm gonna do this. Shout out to Julian. You're awesome.
I don't know if you've seen our cards yet. We got the cards that came in too. Garry and Mikey maybe they'll have a copy there, or they could give one to you. I gave them 10 to hang on to or whatever.
Well, I want them to give me flashbacks because I want to promote them when I play down New Hampshire. Like, I'd like to
definitely,
throw some things this way to expand the pocket.
We've got the cards made up, and the logo. Jillian did the logo, and we got the site that we had the cards made up. You can have the label like in gold or silver. So we got the name in I think it's gold. So they came out really good.
Well, send me the link if possible so I can include it in the podcast, Like, throw it in the descriptions and stuff. I should have it done, or at least after we're done filming, I'll have the podcast ready to go by later tonight, so, yeah.
Cool.
Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you immensely for being on the podcast. Like,
Not a problem.
It was great talking with you, and you will definitely be a reoccurring guest.
Sounds like
if that's cool with you,
Worked for me.
All right, man. Well, live long and prosper, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
So, yeah, that was Matthew Graham, and make sure you check him out. Links down in the description of Flashback. Got the same rhythm section as Swamp Frog. But yeah, some really cool stuff. Yeah. So it's looking like it's time to wrap it up. Or such. Here's my eyes. It disappeared again. There they are. Trippy. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a treat here. I'm going to include my latest single. This is called Becoming a Man. Available also on Spotify and all the streaming services. Then after such, that will be the end.
Back when I was a boy, my only concern was joy. I need not worry of troubles that came. They all seem to be the same. I passed them all off as much as I could, even though I knew that that was no good. And when I look on how I began, it's clear to see I had no plan. No words left to be spoken. Behavior like that goes against what it takes. I'm becoming a man. Years would go on by, I would ask why all my loves continue to die with no surprise, 'cause I would not try. Time goes on and on. New days we will be upon. Oh, small, no matter how small. Now all I have to do is take one look at you, knowing now the correct plan to teach you the best way on becoming a man. Becoming a man. Becoming a man. Becoming a
Thank you for tuning in. Live long and prosper, everyone.